card games have been making a noticeable comeback of late, and now Australian studio Defiant Development bring us Hand of Fate, a digital deck builder with a difference.
One more for the game. Come, sit. You have passed the 13 gates. And you come to my table to play the game of life and death. Your stake is wagered. I refuse none who come here. Yet, I say, turn back.
Another success story from the Australian Interactive Games funding program, Hand of Fate is a roguelike adventure game that uses cards as the framework for all of its gameplay mechanics.
Now we play.
You play a voiceless warrior who stumbled across a mysteriously charismatic old conjurer known only as the Dealer.
What brings you to play the game?
He welcomes you to his table and warns you of the dangers that lie within his devilishly tricky game. Luckily, he also serves as your guide.
Now all you need to do is find and kill the Jack of Skulls and we can progress.
Which is extremely useful as the game throws a lot of different concepts and rules at you right from the beginning. Unlike traditional battle card games that see you building up your deck to verse an opponent, Hand of Fate draws more from traditional dungeon crawlers or adventure games of old. At the start of each round, cards are laid out on the table as pathways to traverse with your player's token, the ultimate goal being to navigate a set number of these layouts until you reach and defeat each deck's boss card.
Plague, and pestilence, and blood, and teeth.
It's a deceptively simple concept that becomes more and more complex the further you progress. Customization in the game comes in the form of building two separate decks at the beginning of each round. One for equipment and the other for encounters. Equipment cards represent gear that can be won or found during your adventure, while the encounter cards make up the pathways you'll traverse. The catch being that in each round, the dealer will also add a number of his own cards that carry with them generally negative effects like curses and fiendishly deadly encounters.
How boring life would be without a little spice.
Along your journey, you'll also be able to earn and spend gold on things like gear, health, food, as well as purchase buffs called blessings and remove curses. Saving up enough for these can actually be quite hard work, and as you begin each round with the same basic equipment, gearing up your hero as early as possible becomes vital to surviving the hand. And it's these clever, well thought out rules that really add life to the game. One of the best examples is the food mechanic. Starting with a set amount, your hero will consume food as he moves across the table, gaining health as he does so. But running out of food will cause your hero to starve and begin taking damage.
I would feed you if I could.
By adding this resource, the game cleverly restricts your movement around the table and forces you to plan at least 2 moves ahead to keep your hero alive. The encounter cards, however, each have a detailed description of the event in the style of an old-fashioned pen and paper RPG. You might, for instance, find yourself in a tavern being approached by a badly disguised goblin who's asking for food, or discover a suspicious-looking treasure chest waiting to be plundered. Do you feed the goblin some bread off your plate, or try prying open the chest to see what lies inside? It all feels like it's been pulled straight out of a game of D&D, and it's really refreshing being able to read these little descriptions and let your imagination do all the work for you. As you progress through each hand, much of the major decision making is dictated by a 4-card chance minigame.
Choose from these options.
It is a novel way to decide the outcome of your decisions, but I felt it got overused quickly and skill would often just give way to pure luck. Which I guess does feel more like a genuine card game, but never really feels fair in the digital realm. What does feel more at home are the combat scenarios, and these take place anytime your hero encounters enemies along his journey. During these, the game switches to a standard third-person brawler, with cards translating to real-world elements and health carried over from the card table. The combat itself feels heavily influenced by the Batman series, with a strong focus on counters and linking combos together. It's obviously nowhere near as polished, and fights can easily get messy with a wonky camera and some sluggish control inputs. But for the most part, it's a great way of literally interpreting these little skirmishes. Winning these battles and encounters will earn you new cards at the end of each round. as well as the ability to remove trickier cards from your hand. So there is some strategy, but it's never certain whether you'll actually see any of these cards on the table, as ultimately your fate is decided by the draw of the dealer, and it's here where the game truly earns its namesake. Often I'd just be having a perfect run, lots of food, plenty of gold, a powerful weapon, and then just after a few bad cards in a row I was left without a shield, cursed to lose all my gold, and starving. 2 more moves and I'd be dead, or worse, starting a fight with barely any health. It's infuriating, and it feels brutally unfair when it does happen, but then again, that's what makes a good card game, and getting that right in a video game is certainly an achievement. Unfortunately, this bittersweet feeling eventually just turned sour for me as I got closer to the game's final few hands. Landing on the same tough pre-stacked encounter cards starts to feel cheap and repetitive, plus battles in the latter half of the game tend to rely on flooding the arena with previous enemies as a way of increasing the challenge. And while it did only take a few extra runs to finally get a lucky hand and reach the end, it was still sad to see so many clever game mechanics undermined by some really outdated difficulty spikes. To be fair though, I was just as quick to come back to the game as I was to walk away from it, which is surely a sign of some great game design, or that the devs did a lot of research into gambling, or maybe both.
Petty treasures retrieved from death and disaster.
Either way, Hand of Fate's clever interpretation of card game mechanics, combined with its seesaw brawler to tabletop gameplay, makes for a really clever and unique experience, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars.
Shall we deal again? The game begins.